Picture this. It's June 15th, 1989. You pull into a convenience store parking lot on a sweltering summer day in Port St. Joe, Florida. You step out of your car, and right there on the hot asphalt, face down, is a photograph. You pick it up, flip it over, and you're immediately hit with a horrifying image. What that witness found wasn't just a discarded piece of trash. It was a chilling snapshot that would basically become the centerpiece of a decades-long, incredibly frustrating mystery. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into one of the most haunting and complex mysteries in modern history. We're talking about the disappearance of 19-year-old Tara Calico and that enigmatic Polaroid photograph that has kept her story in the public eye for nearly 4 decades. I'm going to guide you through the evidence, the investigations, and some shocking recent breakthroughs to try and untangle this truly baffling case. All right, let's get right into it. So the discovery of the photo unfolded in mere moments. A woman parks her car at a junior food store and casually notices a windowless white Toyota cargo van parked right next to her. She goes inside to run her errand for just a few moments. When she comes back out, the van is gone. And right there, sitting in the exact empty parking space that van had just vacated, is the Polaroid. She missed the driver by literally seconds. If she'd walked out just 1 minute earlier, the entire trajectory of this case might have been completely different. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the claustrophobic, frankly terrifying amount of detail captured within that single Polaroid frame. You see a young woman and a younger boy lying on their backs. They're both bound and gagged with heavy black duct tape. You can clearly see they're lying on mismatched sheets and a very distinct blue striped pillow. And right next to the woman, a tattered mass-market paperback by the author V.C. Andrews. Based on the lighting and the cramped space, it definitely appears to have been taken in the back of a windowless van. It's just a truly chilling scene. Obviously, the woman who found the photo immediately called the police. She described the driver, who she'd only seen briefly, as a man in his 30s with a mustache. Authorities scrambled, throwing up immediate roadblocks around the whole area. But it was too late. The driver of that white van managed to slip right through the net. He escaped, and despite massive efforts, neither the man nor his vehicle have ever been identified. And that left the identities of the victims in the photo a complete mystery. Okay, let's dive into this by jumping backward in time about 9 months and shifting our focus to part 1, the 36-mile ride, Belen, New Mexico. The morning of September 20, 1988, Belen, New Mexico. 19-year-old college sophomore Tara Calico sets out around 9:30 a.m. for her daily 36-mile bike ride along State Road 47. She has plans later, so she tells her mom, Patty Dogle, to come looking for her if she's not back by noon. Tara is last seen by witnesses at 11:45 a.m., heading toward home. By 12:05 p.m., just 20 minutes later, Patty gets in her car to go look for her. That incredibly narrow 20-minute window, that's all it took for Tara Calico to vanish. Patty's frantic search did actually turn up some clues, and they're chilling. Right along the roadside, she found a cassette tape by the band Boston that Tara had been listening to. Later on, pieces of Tara's Sony Walkman were found 19 miles away near a remote campground. Her mother firmly theorized that Tara was deliberately dropping these items from a moving vehicle, basically leaving a breadcrumb trail for rescuers to follow. Investigators also found ominous bike tracks and what looked like scuffle marks or skids in the dirt nearby. Now, Tara was riding her mother's bike, a very distinctive neon pink Huffy mountain bike with bright yellow control cables. That bike has never been recovered, but multiple witnesses reported seeing a dirty, light-colored 1953 Ford pickup truck with a handmade camper shell tailing her bike incredibly closely just before she disappeared. Since Tara was wearing her Walkman headphones, she honestly might never have heard it coming up behind her. Months later, when that Florida Polaroid photo was finally broadcast on national television, relatives immediately alerted Patty Dogle. Seeing the image, Patty was absolutely convinced the young woman was Tara. And here's where it just breaks your heart. Rather than pure horror, the photograph actually gave Patty a desperate sense of hope. She literally stated she would thank the captor for keeping her daughter alive, fed, and clean. It really shows the devastating, agonizing power of a mother's grief when she's left totally in the dark. Part 2. The second missing child. Michael Henley. Let's talk about the young boy in the photo. 9-year-old Michael Henley vanished in April 1988 while on a hunting trip with his father in the Zuni Mountains. Now, geography and timeline are everything here. This location was just 45 miles away from where Tara Calico disappeared a few months later. Because of that proximity, when the Polaroid aired on TV, Michael's family looked at that terrified little boy and felt certain their son had been abducted alongside Tara. To understand why Michael wasn't found during the massive initial search, we have to talk about a specific psychological condition called terminal burrowing. Basically, when a victim is lost in freezing temps and hits the final stages of severe hypothermia, they get incredibly disoriented. They'll instinctually crawl into tight, enclosed, hidden spaces, like under a fallen log or a boulder, for self-protection. This is exactly why searchers, even with bloodhounds and helicopters, completely missed Michael's location in that harsh wilderness. So the crucial point is, the boy in the picture was not Michael. In June 1990, a rancher discovered Michael Henley's remains just 7 miles from his family's campsite. He had tragically died of exposure. While it brought closure, this discovery shattered the main geographical link tying that photograph back to New Mexico. I mean, if the boy wasn't Michael Henley, the mystery of the Polaroid deepened exponentially. Who on earth were these two kids?
Part 3, the forensic stalemate.
With Michael officially ruled out, investigators hyper-focused on verifying if the young woman was, in fact, Tara. And the scientific community? Totally divided. The photograph was sent to world-renowned experts at Scotland Yard in the UK who analyzed it and concluded, yes, the woman was Tara Calico. But then, a second, rigorous analysis by scientists at the Los Alamos National Laboratory resulted in the exact opposite conclusion. They said she was definitely not Tara.
Seeking a tiebreaker, the authorities handed the photo over to the FBI's crime lab. But even they couldn't break the stalemate. The FBI's official analysis was ultimately deemed inconclusive. They just couldn't definitively say yes or no. And you can imagine, this left Tara's mother in an agonizing state of limbo, clinging to a photograph that authorities simply couldn't verify one way or the other.
Despite those conflicting forensic reports, Patty Dole had her own reasons for believing it was her daughter. She pointed to agonizingly specific details. That paperback book beside the girl, it was My Sweet Audrina by V.C. Andrews, which happened to be Tara's favorite author. The girl in the photo also had a faint mark on her right calf that matched a scar Tara got in a car accident. Plus, Patty noted that the girl's facial structure, a cowlick, and a lazy eye, especially when viewed without makeup, perfectly matched her daughter. To make matters even weirder, 2 other blurry Polaroid photos surfaced later on. One was found at a construction site in California in 1989, and another on an Amtrak train in 1990. Both showed a gagged woman. Patty actually believed the first one might also be Tara, but honestly, these additional photos merely compounded the confusion. They offered 0 solid leads, no geographic patterns, and ultimately brought investigators no closer to figuring out the truth.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Part 4, a local tragedy, the cover-up theory.
Fast forward to 2008, Valencia County Sheriff Renee Rivera steps forward with a grim theory that completely ignores the Florida Polaroid. Rivera claimed that the disappearance wasn't the work of some wandering serial kidnapper. Instead, he stated that 2 local teenage boys, who actually knew Tara, were following and harassing her in their truck. According to the sheriff, they accidentally hit her, panicked, killed her to keep her quiet, and then disposed of her body to cover up the crime. Now, what is incredibly frustrating about this is that Sheriff Rivera stated he actually knew the names of the individuals involved, but no arrests were ever made. Why? Because investigators lacked a body. Without physical remains or definitive physical evidence linking the suspects to a murder, the sheriff felt he just couldn't build a prosecutable homicide case. As you can imagine, Tara's family felt that the strong circumstantial evidence should have been enough, and they were devastated by the lack of action. But the case didn't stay cold forever. Over the last decade, things have rapidly accelerated. In October 2013, a specific task force is established. By 2019, the FBI steps in with a $20,000 reward. Then, in September 2021, authorities announce a new lead and execute a sealed warrant at a private residence right there in Valencia County. And finally, after decades of silence, a massive breakthrough announcement arrives in June 2023. In 2023, the new sheriff, Denise Vigil, held a press conference detailing a shocking development. Law enforcement announced that they finally believe they have sufficient evidence to submit this investigation to the district attorney for potential charges. Right now, the identities of these persons of interest are sealed by the court, but after over 30 years, the legal machinery is finally actively moving against specific individuals. Which brings us to the ultimate question. With suspects' names sealed by the court and the legal process currently underway in New Mexico, Are we on the verge of finally learning what really happened to Tara Calico on that dusty road in 1988? And if a local cover-up is indeed the truth, then who on earth was that terrified young woman staring out from the Polaroid in Florida? Will we finally get justice for Tara, or will the photograph remain one of the most haunting, unsolved mysteries of our time? Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.